I'd be remiss if we didn't start with prayer, though, because without him, none of this is possible. So let me just open us in prayer, and then I'm going to bring Price up to the stage and we'll get started. Lord, I just thank you for today. I thank you that I get to be associated with this group of people. I thank you that you've put us in this place for a time such as this. Lord, I thank you that each one of the people here, that everything that they do, I just pray that everything they do, that it would be, that people would see less of them and more of you, and everything we would do would be honored and bring glory to you. Lord, I just thank you for today. I just bless everything that we'll do today. Let it be someone here that needs to hear something that will help them be more of who you created them to be. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, let me introduce our first guest. And, this is what's fun. I call him the Oracle of Real Estate for Northwest Florida. Price Rayner and I go back to high school days. We've been through highs and lows, literally. Well, I forgot my mom was here. Price and I have known each other for a long time, and one of the things that's great about Price is, I've always said you need people in your life. It was told to me this way, that know you, K-N-O-W, well enough to be able to know you, N-O-U, in a way that you'll listen to them. Some of the best times that I've had over the last few years is when I'm struggling or something's going on, and I'll walk over across the hall and I'll sit down in Price's office, and he just, take a breath. Easy. And then he'll do things to me too. He came by, this has only been a couple weeks ago, I'm going to share this. I'm walking by and I'm just, how I get. I'm sorry, I just apologize. I get a little wound up sometimes. I'm just in that wound up phase. And I just walked by and he said, hey, you got a second? I said, yeah. He said, hey, you're making everybody real nervous. Why don't you take a breath and sit down for just a second? I got it. And he calmed me down. So listen, I'm so thankful to have Price in my life as somebody that knows me well enough that when he knows me, I know he's got my best interests at heart. Literally, I'm going to speak to his friendship, but let me just say this. If you've been watching what he's been saying the last few years, he has given us the roadmap. I don't know of anybody that has had the ability to see and plan for what has been coming more than Price Rayner. So join me in welcoming Price Rayner, please. Just sit here.
Check. Yeah, it is. Before we start our conversation, can I just get another round of applause for Jimmy and all he does for us? It's a good man right here. Good man, the best.
Thank you.
Well, we're, grateful for him, and it goes like, vice versa. He's someone that holds me accountable and that I'll go to, and we have conversation, and he's just been a great friend, and and I just can't say enough about that, and also just with my partnership with Hunter and John David and Lisa Jones, and they're just dynamite people, and it's just I'm very grateful to have all of them in my life, and if we could just briefly have a round of applause for Lisa Jones.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, she kills it, folks. I mean, you talk about someone that's the epitome of professionalism and hard work and dedication. It's that young lady right there. So, thank you for all you do. I'm very grateful.
Y'all remember when I said that Price will help me? He just did that, because let me just say this. Lisa Jones is the best I've ever seen at what she does.
Amen.
And let me say this. I do go a lot of places, and there's nobody, and I mean nobody in this country that runs new homes and takes care of her people like Lisa does. There are times where agents will say something to me, and I will literally, and I will literally say, I wonder how Lisa would handle this. Because I know if I handle it that way, she's looking for the win-win. So, Lisa, thank you for everything, and I'm so lucky to be there with her. All right, let's get some meat. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit. Let's just talk about kind of where we are. If you want to give kind of a background, obviously the market has changed, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the market's changed from the 2021, 2022 kind of hyper part of the cycle where, we were all extremely busy, and it's great, and we're still busy, and that's great. And, looking back, I'll try to look at what I think first quarter of this year compared to first quarter of last year. the number of sales there will probably be down about 50%. So that, and that's a result of what happened really the end of last year. Now, as we begin to look at January, where for the short term, sales have bottomed, where we sold, Section 17 and 18, 38, detached single-family homes. Granted, this is pretty consistent with everywhere in the Panhandle, so you can apply it to any market therein. We sold 45 homes. It looks like in February, we're going to be in that 60 to 65 range. I am a goofball and count pendings so I can see what's going to happen in the future or have some clarity there. And I think we'll be in that 70 to 80 range for March. So we're seeing a nice ramp up. It is consistent with the seasonality that we see in our market where we begin to build there. So that is positive. I like what I see with the way sales are bouncing up over the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's one thing, obviously, as we've watched these numbers. This is one of the things we want to do today is obviously we want to give y'all some fish, but we want to teach y'all how to fish also. And so, Price, let's talk a little bit about your process, because I think that, you've talked to me about the 4 Ps of the business. Can you explain that and then?
Sure. We'll start with that, and then, I'd like to move, as I talk about my process, I'd like to talk about each kind of area and where that stands right now as we move through that, if that'll be okay. The 4 Ps of real estate, I call it the gospel of real estate. It's a plan, a process, people, and pricing. If I look at those things and I begin to assess my business, say, okay, I'd like to have a plan as to how I'm going to go about doing whatever it is I'm going to do. And then I take that and then I begin to create processes around that plan to help me achieve those goals. Where there'd be maybe so many calls, so many conversations, whatever that is, I begin to build that out. And then it's all built around people. Those conversations are with people. So I want to try to get in front of as many people as I can. And also, we need people. We need each other. To be successful, I need people around me that are going to help me achieve my goals, whatever that is and however that looks like for you. Then in addition, we're selling real estate. So it all comes down to pricing. Whether I'm helping a buyer or a seller, I'm trying to help set expectations that meet the market so that we can have a successful relationship. That's just a very simplistic way to kind of an overview of those 4 Ps that I believe is the gospel of real estate.
Yeah, let's go into your process, because I think that'd be helpful too.
Sure. And so my process, you may say, gee, Price knows all this stuff about the market. Well, okay. I'm pretty good at 4th grade math. Let's just start with that. And that's the reality of it. And so what do I do? That's the thing, is what do I do? Well, every Monday morning, I come in and I dedicate about 45 minutes. That's all it takes. I print out 4 pieces of paper. I print out the actives for my sub area. I print out the pendings. I print out solds month to date and solds year to date. And a CMA, a statistical CMA, that's all. Now, I'm old school. I have 3 stacks of paper that are all about this thick on my desk. When your stacks of paper get this thick, you could probably know what I know. And all it does, it takes time. That's all it is being consistent. That's all this business is being consistent. Do something consistently. But anyway, I digress. I have my stack of actives, pendings, and solds. And I build a goofy little spreadsheet that probably Lucy, my 8-year-old, could build. And I put in there that information. I put in the actives, I put in the solds in there. And I put the solds year to date and solds month to date, but you can go in and harvest solds back to 1993. Very easy, and I have a spreadsheet that goes back to 1993 that shows me how many properties were sold in Section 17 and 18, the average price per square foot, and days on market. And then I can you could build goofy little graphs or look at it and say, hey, how does this compare to that? And once you've looked at it for years, you start to get a good sense of what's going on, or even months, even days. You can begin to see, what's happening. For instance, actives over the last year bottomed. It was February 28th, 2022. we had 121 homes for sale at that point. That represented, you always want to know what that represents. You want to look and come up with an absorption rate, because just the number of actives don't tell the entire story. But if I divide that by the number of sales in the most recent month, that will begin to give me an absorption rate of how long it takes for those to be absorbed. That represented about 3 weeks of inventory. Market was very tight. Then, from that point, we had 2 peaks so far. One was October 10th. The other was about November 20th. Those peaked at 473 homes for sale at those 2 points. We have a mini bottom as of, it was December 26th of 402 homes for sale. We've been holding right around 412, give or take a couple, until this last week. That bumped up to 432 homes for sale. So you say, okay, what is that? Well, if we have, say, 60 or 65 sales the month of February, that would represent 7 months of inventory. Okay, what does that mean? 7 months of inventory represents really a balanced or normal market, which that means buyer nor seller really has an advantage. It's more neutral there. Now, you'll say, okay, well, that's great. What from there? So historically, what happens, which is probably contrary to popular belief, inventory rises through the summer, and it peaks somewhere around Labor Day, and then it drifts down to the end of February, somewhere in there. This year's a little different. But at give or take a month, you're going to be spot on. And so we'll be watching now. The question, if you will, for the market will be inventory as it comes on. How does that relate to the number of sales in any given month, and how does that absorption rate move between now and, say, July? And what's good is, if you're a goofball that counts the pendings, July will begin to become clear in May and June. As you're watching this, like right now, by doing the pendings that I'm talking about, I know that back in December, the average rate of a pending, net pending, was less than 1 per day. Right now, net pendings are 2.5 per day. Hence, take 2.5 for 28 days plus some new home stuff, you got about 75 or 80 sales for the month of March. So you can begin to have this data point that a lot of folks don't have. That one, may give you a competitive advantage in certain circumstances that you can use, and it just helps as a barometer of what's going to happen, gives you good visibility over the next 30, 60, 90 days as to what direction the market's heading, so you can go back to your top P plan and begin to adjust that accordingly.
Right, yeah. So let me give you a couple talking points, and then we're going to go into this a little bit. So from that standpoint, if you're talking about this, and as Price is saying, doesn't matter if you're in Panama City, on St. George Island, doesn't matter if you're in Destin, Miramar, wherever, really, this is the bell tower. When we see what happens on 38, it's very similar to what happens out there. So if you're talking to someone, being able to say, hey, we really kind of hit the peak or the low point, I guess you could say, with the number of homes for sale sometime around February of last year, depending on your market. What you can also say is that we saw a peak where we had the most houses for sale a couple of different times, November and December, and we've actually been seeing that slowly fade down to now, which means that now as we're going into this time of year, we're beginning to see that come back up. I just looked to make sure I was saying this right, the way Price would say it. And we're seeing those things begin to increase. So what that does, if you're a buyer, is it tells you that you're having more opportunities than you had this time last year. If you're a seller, this tells you you've got more competition, so pricing is that much more important. You can begin to frame those things up. So the key is to develop your own process. Just to give you an idea, his process is paper. Mine is almost but digitally. So when y'all see everything that we do with the Friday wrap, obviously we want to recognize all of you, but it's a great opportunity for me now, with 2 years worth of them, to be able to go back in my emails and find from last year the same week, how much did we have go pending that week this time last year? How much did we have go sell that last time, where I can compare where we are compared to where we are. The key is, like what Price is saying, is it's the consistency. So whatever that looks like for you, and if you want help with that, this is one of those things that we really enjoy doing. To help you develop that for you, whether it's on a spreadsheet or whatever, we can absolutely do that. Let's just, if we don't mind, let's go into kind of where you see the opportunity now and what you would say people should be doing right now.
Right now, create as many conversations as possible. Sales is a funnel. It's a funnel. We want to put as many people in the top of that funnel. Just go back to the basics, do those, focus on activities that will create opportunities for conversations. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, it's great. Ultimately, guys, this is a contact business, and it really is about having the conversations. Whether you generate those by buying leads, whether it's sweat or debt. Are you going to make the calls? Are you going to purchase some leads? Are you going to do open houses? What is it that you're doing? But you have to have a way that's generating that opportunity for you to have those conversations. And if you count the conversations, we know historically speaking, it's about 50 conversations, real estate related conversations per transaction. Now, there's a lot of talented people in here. It's not that many. But as you begin to track those things, it's one of those things, whatever you inspect or you keep an idea of what you're doing, you can expect it to get better. So I would just encourage you just to focus on those things. That makes sense? Anything else you want to add?
As Jimmy said in his opening, golly, what an opportunity we have to be in a location like this with so many people. The migration is still strong from other states coming to Florida. I can't impress upon you how fortunate we are, how blessed we are to be here for a time such as this in an area that is so attractional to so many people coming here. Golly gee, if you look at sales over the last 4 years, you're 1,700, 1,860, 1,200, and almost 1,300 last year. This year we'll do 1,000 sales, give or take a couple hundred. Average price on 30 is $2.22 million.
Right.
Where in 2020, when we did 1,709, it was $1,408,000. So we've got the opportunity is there. The fields are ripe. They are ripe for a harvest for those that'll work, that'll just get back to the basics. Be that shining example, be that city on the hill, just be out to provide service to these people in a way that, honors you, honors our Abba Father, and honors them. And we're just teed up for the next 30 years, Jimmy. We're in a growth area. I met with a person earlier this week I had lunch with, and they've got a lot of funds trying to give him money to place here because they believe this is one of the best single-family markets in the country over the next immediate term, 5, 10, 12 years. That's where we are. So please don't miss this opportunity and look back in 10 or 15 years and say, gee, I wish I would have engaged more. I wish I would have put forward my very best foot into this opportunity.
Let's give Price a hand. Thank you, Price. Price, we're going to go over here.